Thank you, Laura, and thanks to all of you for being here today for this very important discussion. Our unified focus right now is on the health and safety of everyone who lives in the St. Louis region. In response to this crisis, our teams have come together as a regional team to coordinate as much as we possibly can on response to this crisis and ensure that the public has information in a consistent and in a clear way. On Sunday, we all met as a team and agreed to restrict events and gatherings across the St. Louis region to no more than 50 people. This was based on CDC guidance at the time, and the CDC's guidance and our restriction remain in place today. We also recommended that schools across the region close no later than tomorrow. And as most of you know, most schools are closing either today or tomorrow in this region. And this is a decision that the schools also came to themselves. I want to thank all of our school and faith leaders, business owners, healthcare providers, and importantly, our residents and our businesses for rallying together to follow these very important guidelines. At this time, there is nothing more important than maximizing social distancing and slowing the spread of the COVID-19 virus. As a unified regional team, we have made some additional decisions about public health measures that will be in effect over the next few weeks. You'll be hearing more about those in a minute today. But you can expect to see more information about how bars and restaurants will be handled in the next few days, and certainly about the social distancing required to keep all of us safe. I think today's press conference is a great example of practicing that social distancing. Although we all may feel a little weird up here, we're used to standing together. This is a very important effort that we're all making today to practice what we're preaching. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to County Executive Steve Ellman, who has a few comments next. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to thank all those that joined us on Sunday afternoon. I think if we'd have stuck around and socialized afterwards, we would have probably been in violation of the 50 person rule. There was a lot of important people there, and a lot of them are here today. I want to thank all the medical professionals, all the people from our various health departments who have been working on this for weeks and sometimes even longer. They were there. We had a great discussion. Lasted about 2 hours. We didn't agree on everything to begin with, but by the time we left, we had agreed on what the next step should be, and the mayor already suggested one of them was to advise our schools to close, and they have all done that. And the other important thing is, excuse me, the other important thing that we talked about then, and something we've been working on the last 3 days, is closing the gaming boats. The medical professionals have advised us that the people at those gaming boats were probably among the most vulnerable because of their age, because of possible prior medical conditions. And today, of course, we found out that the Gaming Commission has closed the boats, and I think that's a tremendous move forward, and I think it's important for 2 reasons. Number one, the mayor was on a call with the governor that very day. I talked to the governor yesterday. We've had several discussions with people at the Gaming Commission, and I think we finally got through to them that this is the important thing to do. And that shows, number one, we can work together and we can have victories here. They may be small, but right now people are wanting to see us working together. I hope they're going to be happy to see that at least on this first effort we were successful, because that's important. the other thing that I think is really important about the gaming boats, and we got a lot of folks out there, small businesses especially, shoot, just about everybody, but small businesses are going to be really, really impacted by this type of regulations we are putting out there. And of course, we don't intend to hurt anybody. We're doing what's in the best interest from a health standpoint. But we're going to have a lot of suffering by small businesses. I want to make sure every one of those small businesses understands it's not just the little guy that's going to be suffering here. The gaming boats are probably the most powerful lobby in Jefferson City. They probably have the ability to fight this more than anybody else does. And I want everybody to understand, every small business person who's suffering, every person who is a server at a restaurant who may not have a job next week, I want them to understand that we are going to work hard to make sure that the rules and the problems we're creating for those small businesses, that the big boys, the gamers and others are going to be held to the same standard. And we, of course, want to thank the Gaming Commission and the governor for taking that step. And Mayor, what's the next project? Sam, I guess, is going to let us know.
Thank you. Thank you both. And Steve, I appreciate your leadership in addressing the issue with gaming boats. We understand, of course, that we have a lot of tend to be older folks, and some of them perhaps not quite as healthy as they would like to be, who are also part of that population, and we want to look out for them as well. But as a medical doctor, I certainly understand how the coronavirus is impacting our community. We all are prepared. This is a serious challenge. We are working together, our regional leaders and our health community. The role of St. Louis County in this crisis has been to prepare, to educate, and to respond. And our response so far has been to limit the spread of this virus in our community. But we must stay ahead of it. We must base our actions on the advice of public health experts and the leadership of our hospital systems. And they are telling us about social distancing techniques. You've all heard about it, and you're seeing it today as a visual. Today I signed an executive order that requires every place of public accommodation in St. Louis County to institute social distancing measures as much as possible with their employees and their customers. I think it's safe to say that everyone is familiar with social distancing, but it merits repeating. Make sure you're standing 6 feet apart. Avoid close face-to-face contact whenever possible. Hold your meetings online, video conference, or over the phone whenever possible. I hope everyone is taking these measures in everyday life. It's not easy, but it's necessary, and we'll do it. Public health experts have told us that changing the restrictions on restaurants and bars will save people's lives. We see that happening all over the country and even here in the Midwest. So today I signed an executive order that will require county restaurants and bars to offer food and beverage to their customers only through delivery service, window service, walk-up service, or drive-through. These new restrictions will go into effect on midnight Thursday. This is not a decision that I took lightly. I spent much of the morning talking with small business owners and restaurant owners. I wanted to understand what toll this will take on them, and we understand, and we get it. As County Executive Elman said, this touches everyone from the largest casino to the smallest business owner, and we'll get through it together. It'll be hard on service workers, and it will permanently impact our small business community. But our public health experts tell us that it is necessary, and when experts talk, we have to listen. I firmly believe that this is a kind of serious, responsible measure that our community needs at this time. I've been encouraged by our meetings with our region's leaders this weekend and even today. We were on the phone this morning for an hour and yesterday morning for an hour as well. Our community is coming together and we're working together. This weekend, people of every faith worshiped in smaller groups, government leaders set new standards, and our public and private schools made important decisions. We must keep working together, and together we will overcome this and work through this. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Ms. Kaiser stated, I am Tim Brinker, the presiding commissioner of Franklin County, one of the appreciative members of the St. Louis region. I'd like to thank the regional leadership and the healthcare providers before us today, and those healthcare providers that have given us the input that we need to make educated decisions for those we represent. Their best interest is being put forth today by these actions we, as leaders of our given communities, need to take. In Franklin County, less than 30 minutes ago, we've adopted the carry-out, take-out, food-only commission order, and in accordance and in concert with our region and where we're going to go. We do it for the protection of the lives we represent, and we do it with the interest of getting through this COVID-19 crisis. In doing so, we will do it faster, get in front of this crisis, and obviously push the curve down as those buzzwords are put forth, but it's reality. And one thing about reality is we can change it if we take action sooner than later. We're not going to wait for the results, we're going to create the results, okay? So I appreciate your presence and your opportunity to get the message put forth through your presence, and again, once again, all the healthcare providers here today and the leadership of the region. Thank you very much, and I think they're going to open it up for questioning now. Thank you.
We've got a lot of speakers and a lot of reporters, so if we could do this in a somewhat orderly fashion and maybe go one at a time with a question and a follow-up per reporter. Corinne?
Mayor Levickson, could you speak to whether these same restrictions will be put to restaurants and bars in St. Louis City?
Yes, St. Louis City, we came together to make this decision jointly. St. Louis City will also be going at midnight on Thursday to take out, carry out, curbside, drive-in, window, only for restaurants.
And will there be any enforcement of this? How will this be enforced for both bars in St. Louis City and St. Louis County as well as you guys?
Well, certainly we have to get the word out, which I think we appreciate all of you helping us do that. You know, initially there will be reminders if someone is violating it. I completely believe that our bar and restaurant community is a very responsible community and will by and large abide by this restriction. They understand, they're smart people. They are seeing the CDC guidelines just like all of us are. And so yes, I expect that they will abide by that, and if we have to, then we'll visit with them about it.
So I think, just to answer for St. Louis County, I think we have to recognize in my conversations with the small business owners and the restaurant owners, most of them have already done this. Most of our restaurant owners have shifted to carry out, have recognized that not only do they want to do the right thing for the community, but they don't want to expose their own employees to any more risk than they have to. I think a lot of this has already been implemented. It will be transitioned over the next few days, but it will be a final order by midnight on Thursday. And like the mayor said, we don't believe there's going to be a need for a lot of enforcement action here, but certainly we'll be paying attention.
We've only been working on this for 3 days, and we still haven't quite learned how to not talk at the same time. But we're working on it. Let me just say that we have an order in St. Charles County that is identical to St. Louis County that I'll be signing when I return to the office. Again, we're not closing businesses, okay? We're just changing the way they do business. Personally, I have a lot of faith in our small business people, our restaurateurs, and all the people impacted by this. They're going to find a way to still provide the services they provide and make the money they need to make to pay their bills and pay their employees. I predict you're going to see some very original thinking here. I know for sure people aren't going to stop eating. And I've got a bad habit of eating out, and I don't think I can cook more than one or two things. So I'm still going to be eating out, and I think most of you are too. So we need to cooperate with them, but let's have some confidence in here. There's some smart people out there. They're going to find a way to do everything we ask them to do for the health and safety of the public and still provide that service.
I think what we'll also see is we'll see some restaurants step up with curbside service when it wasn't a big part of their business in the past. We've already seen a little bit of that. And part of our executive orders will remove restrictions to curbside service or drive-up service that would have otherwise been in place by other limits.
And did you have a question?
Yes, so you guys have been working for days on this subject matter, but talk about St. Patrick's Day. Was there any push to get out ahead of this before you guys gather on St. Patrick's Day? And then a follow-up is, what do you do now? Because hundreds of them might run out there and get it in now instead of later, then that's probably going to harm. So those two questions.
So I think it's important to remember that on Sunday, we put in place the 50-person limit. So even on St. Patrick's Day, there should only be 50 people inside this bar or restaurant. And they should be practicing social distancing even on St. Patrick's Day. So that, I think, is an important thing to say. There's one other thing I want to say. You know, the buzzword now is social distancing, right? But now, more than ever, we need to rely on one another and be with one another. This whole social distancing word is a necessary word, but we have a lot of people depending on us, and each of you have people depending on yourself. So let's not take that to the extreme other than how far apart we're going to stand physically. Thank you.
We should also recognize that, you know, we have a lot of talk about enforcement and can we enforce these things. So many people in the community are just coming up and saying, tell us what the right thing to do is, and we'll do it. We want to beat this back just like anybody else. And there's just so much community spirit and goodwill, and let's get through this together. And recognizing that this is going to go on for a couple of months, maybe stretch out. We'll do what we need to do to beat this back, and then we'll move forward as a community.
Well, and I think that speaks, the cooperative effort speaks to the spirit of our region. I mean, I think the fact that we have willing participants as business owners and restaurateurs that say, tell us what we need to do. There's nothing more refreshing than that spirit of camaraderie and cooperation, knowing full well that once we all get on this same track, we will be swift to defeat this thing and put it behind us. So it's very encouraging, and I think, you know, for at the risk of sounding quasi-tacky, it's extremely patriotic, quite frankly, and it reeks of the American spirit that we all have, quite frankly. So.